Hey folks, it's Rob and welcome back. We're continuing our series today on the Expert box set. Um, I'm not terribly pleased with my document camera, so we're just going to stick with the PDF today. Last time we finished off this page here with Conjure Elemental with the Wizard Eye picture here from Elmore, and we're going to move on now to the next page. And we're going to finish off our mage spells today. Um, so we're moving forward, still in fifth level magic user spells. So next up is Hold Monster, which we can see is reversible. Range 120 feet, duration 6 turns plus 1 turn per level of the caster. Now again, to be able to cast a 5th level spell, you're going to need to be able to be 9th level wizard. Okay, so that is going to be 6 plus 9 at the very least, possibly longer. Effect, paralyzes 1 to 4 creatures. This spell has an effect identical to that of the Hold Person spell, but will affect any living creature, not undead. Each victim must make a saving throw versus spells or be paralyzed. The spell may be cast at a single creature or group, or at a group, 1 to 4, as it said. If cast at a single creature, a -2 penalty applies to the saving throw. If cast at a group, it'll affect 1 to 4 creatures, the magic user's choice, but with no penalties. Reverse of the spell, Free Monster, removes the paralysis of up to 4 victims of Hold Person or Hold Monster spells. It has no other effect. And again, magic users to be able to cast reverse spells need to memorize them reversed. So they need to be prepared to cast that spell. They can't just be on the fly, be like, you know what, instead of holding, I'm going to free those monsters. Now, Magic Jar. This is an unusual one. Range 30 feet. Duration, see below. Effect, possess 1 body. This spell causes the caster's body to fall into a trance, while the caster's life force is placed in an inanimate object, Magic Jar, within range. From this object, a gem or vial for example, the caster's life force may attempt to possess any one creature within 120 feet of the Magic Jar. If the victim makes a successful saving throw versus spells, the possession fails, and the caster may not try to possess that victim again for one turn. 10 minutes. If the victim fails the saving throw, the creature's body is possessed and is under the caster's control. The life force of the possessed victim is placed into the magic jar. So, functionally, the caster has placed their life force into the jar. Then they try to swap it with somebody who then they place into the jar while you are the caster in control of the person they possessed. Got it? Good. Caster may cause the body to perform any normal actions but not special abilities. Similar to Polymorph Self-Effect, a Dispel Evil spell will force the magic user's life force out of the possessed body and back into the magic jar. When the magic user returns to his or her real body, the spell ends. If the possessed body is destroyed, the victim's life force dies, and the caster's life force returns to the magic jar. From there, the caster may try to possess another body or return to the original body. If the magic jar is destroyed while the caster's life force is within it, the caster is killed. If the magic jar is destroyed while the caster's life force is in the possessed body, the life force of that is stranded in that body. If the caster's original body is destroyed, the life force is stranded in the magic jar until the caster can possess another body. This possession of another's body is a chaotic act. So, you can see that this is not a regular player character kind of spell, right? But it is a really interesting spell to use with, say, like a unpleasant, chaotic NPC magic user. Burgle, for hints. Let's see. Next is Pass Wall. Range 30 feet. Duration 3 turns. Effect, creates a hole 10 feet deep. This spell causes a hole 5 foot diameter, 10 foot deep, to appear in solid rock or stone only. The stone reappears at the end of the duration. The hole may be horizontal or vertical. And you're like, wow, that's a That's a lot of spell power for just like a 5 foot wide, 10 foot deep hole. Uh, but that is, and it's not even permanent. It is a temporary effect. Basically, a half hour. You put a hole in the wall. Uh, but that is a potent ability when used correctly. Teleport. This one's fun. Range 10 feet. Duration instantaneous. Effect transports one creature with all equipment. Just one. This spell instantly transports the magic user or other recipient to any unoccupied ground level destination on the same plane of existence. Not the same planet, same plane of existence. An unwilling victim may make a saving throw versus spells to avoid the effect. So, if like you've pissed off the high level magic user and he's like, to off to Timbuktu with you, go join normal. Catmandu, boom, away with you. You can make a saving throw versus spell to try to avoid being sent away. So if they fail or they just decide to go, the recipient arrives at the destination with all equipment carried. Destination may not be deliberately be one known to be occupied by a solid object. So you can't wish them functionally into the wall or above ground. So you can't send them up in the air like you can with Dimension Door. Chance of arriving safely depends on how carefully the caster has studied the area. Any creature teleporting into a solid object is instantly killed, which, that's not all that strange. Here we have a small chart at the top of the page. Knowledge of destination. So this is casual, general, or exact. We'll get into that. But on a casual knowledge, you're like, Poland, right? I'm going to send you to Warsaw. And you're like, but you've never been to Warsaw. Yeah, but I know Warsaw exists. That's casual knowledge functionally. 1 to 50, you success. 51 to 75, you're going to end up sending them too high, or yourself. And 76 to 100, too low. And too low is a problem. A real problem. Yeah. So, general knowledge, I've watched travel logs of Warsaw, right? I saw I can identify some actual landmarks that I'm like, yeah, okay. So in that case, it's 1 to 80 for success. 81 to 90, you're still going to be too high when you get there. And 91 to 100 is in the ground. Yeah. Now, exact, you've been there. You're like, yeah, I went to Warsaw, 3 years ago. I was out here in this place. This is exactly where I want to go. 1 to 95% chance for success. 96 to 99, you're still high. You're going to fall when you get there. And then finally, unfortunately, the 00 is too low. So what strictly does this mean in the rules? Casual knowledge means that the caster has been there once or twice, or visualizing the aiming point from descriptions or magical items. So for the purposes of the game, like scrying, using a crystal ball, or have extensively read about the book, or about the place, General knowledge means caster has been to the area often or has spent several weeks studying the area magically via crystal ball, etc. So that's extensive scrying or has been there. Exact knowledge means that the caster has made highly detailed personal study of the landing point. So more strict than I was describing, unfortunately. Sorry about that. But yeah, they need to make this highly detailed study of the landing point. Very specific. Need to make sure there's no flies in the chamber, all that kind of stuff. So for each teleport, the DM rolls D percentile. If the result of this is other than success, the recipient arrives 10 to 100 feet above or below the desired destination. If too high, the recipient falls, taking damage on impact, 1 to 6 points of damage per 10-foot fallen. If the result is too low, the death occurs unless a vacant area such as a cave or dungeon lies conveniently at that point. Now, that is hyper convenient, but maybe that happens. Maybe you're like that kind of DM. Maybe this is an opportunity presented by chance, right? And you're like, you know what? Yeah, boom. You're now in this purple worm tunnel. Well, that's one of the options. Wall of Stone, our pictured piece of art. Range, 60 feet. Duration, special. Effect, creates 1,000 cubic feet of stone. And this is a permanent effect, functionally, right? As opposed to pass wall, which just makes it 30-foot, makes a 10-foot long hole, 5-foot wide, like a large sewer pipe, for that lasts a half hour. No, this one makes 1,000 feet of cubic stone. This spell creates a vertical stone wall, exactly 2 foot thick. Any dimensions and shape may be chosen by the caster, but the total area must be 500 square feet or less, 10 foot by 50, 20 foot by 25, and the entire wall must be within 60 feet of the caster. So you can't just make it like, 2 foot tall and 1,000 feet long, right? The wall must be created so as to rest on the ground or similar support and cannot be cast in space occupied by another object. It lasts until dispelled or physically broken. So, you can use it to block something off. You can use it to create 2 foot thick walls. This is actually handy in domain construction as well, if you're getting to that level of play, which, if you're casting 5th level spells, you could be. 6th level magic user spells. Now, you have to be 11th level to be able to cast these. The first one is, in the corner here, Anti-Magic Shell. Range 0, applies to the caster only. Duration 12 turns. Effect, personal barrier which blocks magic. So for 2 hours, you have a personal barrier that blocks magic. The spell creates an invisible barrier around the magic user's body, less than an inch away. Barrier stops all spells or spell effects, including the caster's. The caster may destroy the shell at will, otherwise it lasts until the duration ends. Except for a wish, no magical power, including a dispel magic spell, can cancel the barrier. So you can't be healed by magical healing. You can't be affected by charm or ESP spell or hold person or shot with a magic missile. I would also rule that if a fireball was set off in your vicinity or a lightning bolt passing through your location, you would also not be affected by those. In fact, I think it would stop a lightning bolt instead of reflecting it or allowing it to pass onwards. Because it is magic. But it doesn't, prevent, for example, a breath weapon, which is a special ability. Moving to our next page, we have another nice piece of Elmore art here down here. Some kind of, it's always tempting to say this dark with the stuff on it is evil. You be the judge, but he's definitely creeping on this lady here. And, when you're an 11th level magic user, you're probably don't see a lot of babes, Top of the page, Death Spell. Range, 240 feet. Duration, instantaneous. Effect, slays 4 to 32 hit dice of creatures within a 60 by 60 by 60 area. The great big old cube, right? 4 to 32, that's 4d8. This spell will affect 4 to 32 hit dice of living creatures within a given area. Normal plants and insects are automatically slain. Don't even bother with it. They're just dead. 60 foot by 60 foot patch of dead ground. And those with no hit points are not counted in the total affected. Undead are not affected, nor are creatures with 8 or more hit dice, or levels of experience. So if the party, your 11th level magic user, probably got an experienced party with you, they're immune, right? If they're 8th level or higher. But if you're dropping this down, on the goblin camp, 4 to 32 hit dice of goblins will be killed, right? Each victim must make a saving throw versus death ray or be slain. Lowest hit die creatures are affected first. So if there's like let's say for example you have like an ogre camp with, an ogre and some ogre kids and an ogre chieftain and some like slave kobolds. The slave kobolds are probably going to be killed first, and then the ogre kids, and then the ogres, and then the ogre chieftain, right? Uh, Work your way up. Start with the small stuff and go up. Disintegrate. Range 60 foot. Duration instantaneous. Effect destroys one creature or object. The spell causes one creature or non-magical object to crumble to dust. A victim may make a saving throw versus death ray to avoid the effect. So examples, a dragon, a ship, or a 10-foot section of wall may be disintegrated. The effect does not affect magic items or spell effects. So, you can't use it to go and destroy the magic shield, but you can use it to destroy the person wielding it. Giaz, another fun one, also reversible. Range 30 feet. Duration until completed or removed. Effect compels one creature. This spell forces a victim either to perform or avoid a stated action. For example, a character may be giazed to bring back an object for the caster, to eat whenever the chance arises, to never reveal certain information. The action must be possible and not directly fatal, or else the giaz will return and affect the caster instead. So you can't say, for example, giaz of like stab yourself in the gut. No, you're going to end up compelling yourself to do that. So, but you can compel them to like, you may never speak of this to anyone. And then they can't speak of that to anyone. Period. So the victim may make a saving throw versus spells to avoid the effect. If the victim ignores the giaz, penalties decided by the DM are applied until the character either obeys the giaz or dies. Suitable penalties include minuses in combat, lowered ability scores, loss of spells, pain and weakness, and so forth. Dispel magic and remove curse spells will not affect a giaz. Reverse of this spell, remove giaz. You don't say. Remove giaz will rid a character of an unwanted giaz and its effects. However, if the caster is a lower level than the caster of the original giaz, there is a chance of failure, 5% chance per level difference, just like dispelling magic in that case. But you need to cast this 6th level spell by an 11th level or higher magic user they have to have already memorized the reverse giaz. Remove giaz, just get, to reverse it off. They can't just go and cast it in reverse. They have to memorize it. But this is a find spell for NPCs to have, and then later on for PCs to have when they're like setting up their... At 11th level, they're going to be interested in getting their tower, right? If we're going to be playing the Beck Me type of game. You're going to have your home base, and maybe you have things that you want done, or things that are not to be spoken of. It plays well into the powerful magic user. Next we have Invisible Stalker. Range 0, caster only. Duration until mission is accomplished. Effect summons one creature. This spell summons an invisible stalker, which is found on page 52. It's a monster, which will perform one task for the caster. The creature will serve whatever the time or distance involved until the task is completed or until the creature is slain. A Dispel Evil spell will force the creature to return to its home plane. So, it is an extra-dimensional creature. It's from the elemental plane of air, honestly, the Invisible Stalker, I believe. But it is, a common use of this is to, like, bring me blanket so-and-so, right? Or kill that intruder, right? It's not usually like, slice 50 pounds of onions. I mean, although you could, right? It's your spell as the player. But, you know, again, it's a 6th level spell cast by at least an 11th level magic user. It's not going to be something every day like, oh, you know what? I need someone to like, wash my car, right? Um, there's easier ways to get there, right? Our next spell, Lower Water, range 240 feet, duration 10 turns. So, not a small amount of time, but not for like forever. Cuts depth to half normal. This spell will affect an area up to 10,000 square feet as noted above. If cast around a boat or ship, the vessel may become stuck. At the end of the duration, the sudden rush of water filling the hull will sweep the ship's deck clear of most items and cause 21 to 32, that is 1d12 plus 20, points of hull damage to the ship. So, that's interesting. 110 minutes later, after you've dropped, basically swamped a ship onto the lake floor, the water comes rushing back. Probably your more conventional use of this is to like cross an area or to reveal something hidden under the water, and then you go and deal with it, and then the water comes back afterwards. But it explicitly describes functionally a use that is interesting. Right. Projected image. Range 240 feet. Duration 6 turns. So, an hour. Effect creates one image. The spell creates an image of the caster up to 240 feet away, which will last without concentration. Okay, no concentration is a plus. Projected image cannot be distinguished from the original except by touch. So, looks exactly like them. Any spell cast will seem to come from the image, but the caster must still be able to see the target. Spells and missile attacks will seem to have no effect on the image. If touched or struck by a hand-to-hand weapon, the image disappears. It's like a really fancy mirror image spell that you don't need to concentrate on, and you don't need to like worry about like how it looks, how it acts. But it will disappear if it's struck, and you still need to be within sight range of the targets you want to attack with your spells for it the spells to be attacking. Trust me, it is useful to have like this copy and confusion, but again, and players may be a bit grumbly to find out that the person that they've been attacking this whole time is actually in a mirror, projected image. But the deviousness comes with this type of character. And finally, our last 6th level spell for the magic user is Stone to Flesh, which is reversible in a kind of gross way. Range 120 feet, duration permanent. Yep, permanent. Effect, one creature or object. This spell turns any one statue or quantity of stone up to 10 foot by 10 foot by 10 foot to flesh. It is usually used to restore a character turned to stone by Gorgon Breath, for example, and that is definitely the benign and probably intended effect of the spell. Reverse of the spell, Flesh to Stone, will turn one living creature, including all equipment carried, to stone. The victim may make a saving throw versus it says versus turn to stone. So yeah, saving throw versus turn to stone to avoid the effect. And the things people get up to by like turning stone into flesh is probably tales for another time. But I can only imagine how gross people can be with it now. Back in the day, it was like, yeah, you can undescribed flesh, right? That you could use for whatever purpose you want, but it's permanently a 10 foot by 10 foot cube of flesh that you have. Fantastic. What are you going to do with it? Who knows? What are its properties? It's a problem that you probably want to consider before you let your players have access to such a thing. because trust me, they will find new and creative and gross ways to use this spell. That's enough of that for today, I think. I mean, we have the thief here on the opposite page. I suppose. You know, I thought it would take me a little longer to go through the spells. It didn't. So let's read the thief page. It's just this page. So, thief. Good Elmore picture of a thief. He's got his stripy pants, and he's got his cloak, and he's got his spiked cap, studded cap. You know, he's ready for his sneaky activities because he's got his hand on his dagger. Thief. Thieves may advance to 36th level. When 4th level, burglar, is reached, a thief gains an 80% chance to read any normal writing or language, including simple codes, dead languages, treasure maps, and so on, but not magical writings, in addition to the usual thief abilities. Now, if an attempt to read a piece of writing fails, the thief must gain at least 1 level before trying to read it again. So, you know, you tried reading the secret map, you failed, you can try it again at your next level. But that is a thing that you just don't hear that much about people utilizing, but it's actually super useful. At 10th level, a thief gains the ability to cast magic user spells from spell scrolls. However, there is a 10% chance that the spell will backfire, creating an unexpected result because of the thief's imperfect understanding of magical writings. This ability only allows thieves to cast spells from existing magic scrolls, not write their own. Very fair. You'll need to work out what spell backfire looks like as the DM. And, you know, that may be in relation to the spell that's being cast. For example, if they're casting, like a magic missile off a scroll, having that backfire is just probably pretty straightforward, like, magical explosion, or they're attacked, the wrong target is attacked, or something like that, right? But if it's like, a knock spell off of a scroll, what does that do when you do it wrong? Think about it. Thieves may not build strongholds or castles like other characters. However, upon reaching name level, so, you hit Master Thief, level 9, a thief may construct a hideout, a fortified house in a city or cave network, etc. A thief who has constructed a hideout will attract 2 to 12 apprentice first-level thieves who come to learn from a master. These will generally, though not always, be loyal, but will not be replaced by others if they die or leave. At this point, a player character thief may want to consider setting up a thieves guild. Details of this are given in the D&D companion set. That's the next set, not in this set. Again, we do try to sell the next product, So, you have our saving throw chart. You can see we advance 1 to 4, same items down the line as you started with. But at level 5, everything goes down basically by 2 points. And then we go down another 2 points at level 9 and another 2 points at 13, right? And we have our various titles. Level 1, Apprentice, then Footpad, Robber, Burglar, Cutpurse, Sharper, Pilferer, Thief at level 8, Master Thief at level 9, and then it gets boring again with 10th level Master Thief and so on and so forth. As you can see, progression is pretty quick. It takes you 4,800 XP to hit level 4, and it takes the magic user, 5,000 XP just to hit level 3. So you do advance fairly quickly. You do roll a d4 for every level of hit points, and at 9th level, that's your last time you get to roll. It's just another 2 hit points per level thereafter, which actually starts to work in your favor because, you were only rolling a d4 anyway. And, of course, constitution adjustments, if you have any, no longer apply at 10th level or higher, so you can't get those extra hit points from the high constitution. Here we have the Thieves' ability table. It's fairly infamous because this is why thieves are poorly regarded at low levels. As you can see, for an open locks you don't even hit a 50, you hit 55% chance to open a lock at level 7, right? And it does get to 99 percentile at level 14, but geez. Remove trap, similar kind of function. You get a 50% chance of removing a trap at level 7, right? Uh, Pickpockets, you can see the percentages actually exceed 100%. That's because there's difficulty adjustments possible. Move silently. That starts out also just really sad at 20%. Moves up to 99 at level 14. Climbs sheer surfaces. They actually start okay on that one, where it's just like, how did you climb that slick sheer wall? Yeah, 87% chance for a first level character. It's like the only thing that they can do is Spidey walk. But they do get really good at it. It's just like the slow progression, as you can see. Hide in shadows, they're not very good at that at all to start out with. Again, if you want a basically half chance to be hidden in shadows, 7/8 level. And hear noise. This is your ability to hear noises more carefully than the regular party members. It's a third of a chance, rising to 1 through 5, on a D6. We have addendums on the chart there at the bottom. Chance of success reduced by 5% for every level of victim above 5th. That's on the pickpockets. So let's say 7th level thief picking the pocket of a 10th level fighter would have a 30% chance of success. That's 55 minus 25 equals 30. So, at 7th level, you have a 55% chance of picking the pocket, but the target is that much higher than you. So we reduce that by 25 to get a 30%. I know. And that's based off of not the difference between the thief and the target, is based on the target being higher than just 5th level. Yeah. Hear noise, you're rolling a d6 to determine success on that chart. And finally, our 3-star items here are back to the pickpocket table. Once a thief reaches 12th level, the pickpockets of low-level characters may be picked automatically. However, DM should allow 1% minimum chance of failure regardless of the thief's level. So you functionally are always a 99, even on, that guy, that oaf, who's just been like, fell off the turnip cart, he's going to notice a 1% chance that Mr. Super Thief, head of the local thieves guild, has gone and stolen his purse. I don't know. You be the judge. That's rules as written, of course. But that's where we're going to finish today. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. I hope you are having a great day. Goodbye.